Welcome back to Math 107 College Algebra. In this video, we're really going to summarize what we talked about in class over the past couple of days with transformations of functions. So I have here the function f of x is equal to x times x plus 1 times x minus 2. And then y is going to equal a times f of b times the quantity x plus c plus d. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to adjust the slider on D. I'm just going to go ahead and animate it and slow it down a little bit. So we can see that slider is going to move the function up and down. And if we were to stop it somewhere, so there it stopped at negative 5.7. And we can see that we've moved down across the y-axis at 0 on the original function. And now we're crossing it at what appears to be negative 5.7. And if I put a point on that, I verify it is indeed 0, negative 5.7. So what I can now do is set that back to 0. And I'm going to get the C plane. And here we can see that it's moving side to side. Let me pause that to get rid of the intercept real quick. So it's moving side to side, but we see that as C is going negative, that the function's actually moving to the right instead of the left as you would normally expect with it going negative, and now it's starting to move toward the positive direction, so it's moving back to the left. So the key to remember is with the horizontal transformation, when we have a positive C, it's actually moving in the negative direction to the left, and here I've paused it at C equals 7.82. And we can see that it's moved to the left about 7.8 units. So I'm going to set that slider back to 0. Next slider I'm going to look at is A. So right now A is at 1, so nothing's changed. There's two things I want to look at. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move the slider to negative 1. And if we look at this, we can see the different x and y values. So in this case, it's flipped over the x-axis. So making that a negative is going to flip it across the x-axis. The other thing I'm going to look at is if I take a value of a between 0 and 1, and the same thing would apply between negative 1 and 0 after flipping it, we can see the x-intercepts here have not moved. But the y-intercept, not y-intercepts, the y values have gotten to be closer to the x-axis, so it's a vertical compression going on here. Likewise, if I went in the other direction, we can see now that the function's expanded in the vertical direction. So that'll be our vertical expansion. In general, this is referred to as a vertical rescaling. Big key I want you to remember is not necessarily the numerical values, just when a gets larger than 1, we have an expansion. When a is smaller than 1, we have a compression. Likewise with the B slider, first if I make B negative 1, so I can see now the x-intercepts don't match up. And if we take a good look at this, we can see it's reflected across the y-axis. So that would be our reflection across the axis. And now, if I take b to be a number between 0 and 1, we can see that those x-intercepts have spread out now. Instead of being at negative 1 and 2, they are now at about negative 2.5 and positive 5. So we see that for a small value of x, we get an expansion in the horizontal direction. Likewise, if I take a big value we can see that those x-intercepts have gotten very close to the origin here. So what's going on there is we're compressing the function horizontally. So again, the big key I want you to remember is for a big value of b, the function is compressing horizontally. For a small value of b, the function is expanding horizontally. Now, one other key that I want to look at is when we did that flip earlier, we let c be 0. Well, now I'm going to change c. I'm going to make c 5. So we talked earlier that making c 5 is a horizontal transformation, or translation, by 5 units to the left. Well, now if I make b negative, and to make my life easier, I'll make it -1. We again see that we get a reflection, but this time it's not reflecting across the y-axis, it's reflecting across the newly transformed y-axis, which is the line x equals -5. So the key to remember with the flip is we're going to do the translation first, and then if we have a flip, it's going to be over the transformed y-axis, not the original one. So that concludes this video. It also concludes the content for our first exam. After the exam, we're going to start taking a look at different things with quadratic functions.